everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is immigration attorney Shannon Laguerre-Maingrette. Shannon, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. How are you?
I am good, thank you. And I have a really important conversation that I would love your perspective on. It is about some oral arguments that the Supreme Court heard on Thursday regarding the president wanting to change the definition of birthright citizenship. As an immigration attorney, what sticks out to you?
So today, basically, there were two issues. This was the first day of oral arguments under Trump v. CASA. CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates. It's a group of organizations that got together in defense advocating for children. And so the two issues basically that were important in arguments today was one, the birthright citizenship. There was an executive order signed by President Trump indicating that it would end that if you are born on American soil to parents who are undocumented or here on temporary visas, they're just visiting, that would end. So those arguments were heard also in brief, but the main issue was that you had states that basically issued nationwide injunctions. That was Maryland, Washington, and Massachusetts, who indicated that this is wrong. We are not allowing this. And so basically at this point, the other argument was that the courts, the federal district courts, do not have a right to state that basically this policy, this executive order is wrong and to issue these nationwide injunctions. The arguments that were presented is that you are trying to basically make it somewhat uniform. You want to stop nationwide harm, and that's why the federal district courts are coming in. They want to interpret the law. And so basically that's what's going on. Those were the two takeaways, I would say, from today's oral arguments.
Based on the questions the justices were asking, the statements that they were saying, where do you think their heads are at? Which way do you think they're leaning?
Right. So basically, there were lots of questions in regards to the nationwide injunctions, of course, whether or not basically there's another way of being able to have this the people protected. Some of the arguments that were presented, the questions that were asked, what about class action lawsuits, right? Why not do that where people get together and do a class action lawsuit and you have a certain protected people are protected in that manner. And so those were what was actually brought out today. Very difficult to achieve when you do the class action lawsuits. And I think some of the justices were like, hey, we need to be able to find a way to be able to stop when there's an issue, that there's an order to stop and protect everyone. Right. And so I think at this point, the way that it looks like is that it's probably going to be split. I think there's really going to be a lot of focus because this really goes to the heart of what we took in civics class, right? Like back in eighth grade, right? That basically you have checks and balances. Here you are that you have this president that has signed, and he's been here for a little bit over 100 days, right? 151 executive orders. And how do you basically make sure that the people are protected and that it's in the best interest of people? And that's when you have the courts step in to be able to evaluate and review, and based on Supreme Court case law and precedent, whether or not this is right. Also having Congress involved, and that's really what right now is going on.
And I want to talk specifically about birthright citizenship and where you think the court is going with that, because up until this executive order, people thought this was settled. It's the 14th Amendment. If you were born on American soil, you are an American citizen. Do you think that that is seriously under threat right now?
Right. And not only the 14th Amendment, but you also have case law, right? Supreme Court case law in 1898 that indicated that if you are born here in the United States, that you are basically a U.S. citizen. And so I do think that the fact that this is being brought up is a concern. It should not be a challenge at all. I do think that basically sooner or later we will find out that hopefully the Supreme Court will state that this is settled law. You had Justice Sotomayor today indicating like, hey, we have all the Supreme Court precedent, case law that is against you. And so at that point, basically, they became very upset, stating, no, that's not the case. But there is case law. So I do believe that basically, hopefully it will come back that this is settled and that's all there is to it.
As an immigration attorney, hearing that birthright citizenship is being even argued at the Supreme Court level, What do you think that even does to immigration in this country?
Listen, at the end of the day, this is what this is about, right? It's to put fear in individuals and have them be afraid and not know where they stand. And in regards to immigrants, you have 53% when you look at the polls that are opposed to the president's executive order on birthright citizenship. And I think basically people understand that, yes, as much as we may need to have changes in immigration laws, we want to make sure that people are protected, US citizens, lawful permanent residents, and people as a whole in the United States are protected. But we don't want to take rights away that have been settled by US Supreme Court cases, by the Constitution. And so basically, it is hurtful because what's going on now is putting fear in individuals where people don't know where they stand. And that's why you have CASA coming out saying we have to protect those individuals who are not yet born, right? And also those who basically are afraid of what's going to happen to them. So it is sad and perturbing.
The U.S. Solicitor General, who's arguing on behalf of the Trump administration, said this about President Trump's action regarding birthright citizenship. He said it was, quote, protecting the meaning and value of American citizenship. As an immigration attorney, what do you think of his characterization there?
Listen, American citizenship is so many things, right? The Constitution indicates that if you are born in this country, if you were born on this soil, you are an American citizen. You have people who have come to this country that have contributed, that have made a positive, meaningful difference in this world, in this country. And basically, that is American citizenship. It is about making a fundamental difference for future generations, which many immigrants do. And then at that point, they end up having families here and basically end up making such an incredible impact on all levels of society, all sectors of society. And so I disagree wholeheartedly. Basically, yes, we want to protect citizenship, but it is protected by the Constitution. And those who basically have been born in this country, who have been born here, no matter who their parents are US citizens.
Do you think that the idea that this is even up for debate, birthright citizenship, do you think that there are going to be any unintended consequences here when it comes to immigration in the United States?
I mean, listen, you've been seeing a decrease in tourism, right? So people have been really uncomfortable about coming to the United States and traveling here. People are making plans to go other places. And I think that's going to, the consequences is also going to be on the economy, right? When you have less people visiting, it's a problem. When you have people fearful, right, to bring their talents and skills to the United States, because there are people who can come here and share their wealth of knowledge that they have and contribute to not only just education, but also the sciences and arts. Those individuals are going to want to go elsewhere, basically, because they understand that the whole premise of this society, right, that is protected by the Constitution, is being attacked by these executive orders. So I do think the consequences of this is that basically you're going to see a decrease of the greatness of immigrants coming to this country.
Thursday was the first day of oral arguments before the Supreme Court. So, what specifically are you looking out for next?
So basically, looking to see, we don't know when we'll get a decision. We're hoping very soon. And so I think right now, basically looking to see whether or not there'll be a decision on the nationwide injunctions. And then I believe later on there'll be more thorough conversation and decisions pertaining to the birthright citizenship executive order.
There's certainly a lot to look out for next, and President Trump has made immigration one of his top priorities. So, as more of these conversations crop up, Shannon, I hope you can join me again. Thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.